Welcome to the Flight Club Podcast, a woman's guide to leaning out. We give you a behind-the-scenes look at business launch and growth through the stories of successful female entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Felina Hansen, founder and CEO of Hera Hub.
Hello and welcome. I am really excited to share my conversation today with Danielle Glosser. Danielle is the founder and principal of Client Raiser, the business that's dedicated to helping artists to increase their clients' volume and the visibility of their art. This is a really interesting topic to me for a number of reasons. We show art at Hera Hub. We feature local artists. I have a background a bit in art through my now ex-husband. He was a working artist and have been connected to other areas of the art world throughout my career. So I'm really, really interested and excited to learn more about Danielle's business and how she really helps artists, because it's so needed. Since 2014, she has worked with nearly 100 artists across the country to, of course, support their professional goals. Both emerging and established artists, she helps them with in-depth interview process, which results in tangible assessment of their art practice and concrete next steps for advancing their careers. So welcome to the show today, Danielle.
Oh, thank you, Felina. So nice to be here. And I also just want to say how much I appreciate you starting Hera Hub, because it's such a fabulous organization, and the leadership skills it's taught so many entrepreneurial women is just truly fabulous.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Danielle. I'm glad to have you a
Of course.
part of it. Yeah. Well, let's dive in. I want the backstory on Danielle Glosser. So take us back through your career path. What'd you do? And then we'll get to the point that you took flight yourself and launched your own business.
Sure. Well, after college, I decided that I wanted to work for the National Basketball Association. So I landed a job with the Golden State Warriors, and the novelty wore off very quickly.
Okay, wait. I got to ask, why basketball, and how did this all come about?
So I was actually the mascot at the University of Arizona, the female mascot, and I just always had an interest in sports and decided to try and make a career of it.
That's awesome. Okay, so you went to work for the Golden State Warriors. What were you doing there?
I worked in the marketing department. I was basically one of the people that did all the activities during the games, like throwing T-shirts into the crowd and setting up the halftime show. So it was a good stint right out of college.
Yeah, I can imagine. That must have been fun. Great. Well, where did you go from there?
So during that time, I really realized that my main passion was around social justice issues, and I had the opportunity to speak with a consultant for the Warriors who actually did a lot of team building along race lines, and I therefore wound up studying sociology at George Washington University in D.C. with an emphasis in race issues, with the hope of becoming a diversity trainer. So after graduate school, I worked for a firm that did diversity training for Fortune 500 companies, and I quickly realized that I thought to be effective, you really needed to be a clinical psychologist. So from there, I wound up working for the Clinton administration. President Clinton had an initiative on race issues across the country, which many people didn't hear about because of Monica Lewinsky. But I did do a lot of outreach work in different communities to take the temperature of race around the country for this initiative put on by President Clinton.
I want to pause on that, Danielle. That's fascinating, and what an incredible opportunity. How did you land that role, and talk about some of the work you did there?
Sure. So I actually was reading the New York Times, and it turned out that where I interned during graduate school, the executive director was quoted in the paper. So I contacted the local chapter for the woman that I interned for and asked her if she could connect me, because certainly he knew people there if he was quoted in the paper. And she said, I can do better than that. One of my board members is on their staff. So she hooked me up for an interview, and I wound up working in the outreach division, setting up sessions around the country with religious leaders and corporate leaders and education leaders and the like, to basically get data from them to contribute to this report that was going to the president on the state of race issues in the country.
So interesting. What an incredible experience that must have been.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Important work you were doing. And, you know, we talk a lot about diversity and inclusion now, today. You know, it's such a hot topic, but this was back quite some time ago. So you were really at the forefront, kind of cutting edge of some of this research.
Well, I definitely credit a lot of companies that had diversity departments in their headquarters at the time, which was refreshing because it was kind of a new concept, but a lot of them really took it on, and they were the real leaders in getting these conversations going in the workplace. So obviously there's still a long way to go, but we definitely have made some strides along the way here.
Yeah, wow. And from there, it looks like you went to the National Conference for Community and Justice. Tell us what you did there.
So President Clinton assigned pieces of this initiative to different nonprofits, and I happen to have worked with a lot of religious leaders, and that piece was doled off to the National Conference for Community and Justice, which is now unfortunately defunct. But I was their director of public policy for several years and led 65 offices around the country to fight all forms of discrimination: race, gender, religion, sexual orientation, ability issues. So they really did great work, and it's a shame that they went under.
Yeah, definitely. So what was next for you, Danielle?
So I decided to have a couple of kids, and I wanted to stay home with them, which I did for about 10 years. And one day I received a screenplay from my brother. He's a screenwriter in Los Angeles. And normally I was not thrilled with the content, but this particular script just really drew me in. I was so excited about it. I was so excited for him. And it struck me, I want to be excited about my work again. So once my little guy started kindergarten, I decided that I wanted to go back to work. And there was a nonprofit in DC that combined film and social justice issues. So I decided to apply for a part-time job there, which I did not get. And I came to learn that they were only going to pay me $15 an hour. So I was just beside myself when I learned that and realized in that moment that I had to start my own business.
Makes sense. So why the foray into art?
So someone told me to focus on what came naturally, and that was very easy for me to determine, which was networking. So I started thinking about, how I could help all my friends with their small businesses to get clients. So one summer I did a bunch of research interviewing solopreneurs about their businesses. And in the middle of this process, our neighbor, who's a very famous artist, called me. And he said, "Are your boys home?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Can I use them as models for a project?" And I said, "Of course." So he came over with his lights and props, and 2 hours later I said, "Oh, by the way, what's this for?" And he said, "I've been asked to submit for the White House Christmas ornament." So I said, "Fabulous. I want my kids on the White House Christmas ornament." So he mentioned that he had to submit a description of the piece. So he had me read it. And I said, this is terrible. Let me rewrite it for you because I want this to happen. So I started thinking, like, are artists a group that need help with my skill set? Strategic planning, project management, research, writing, networking. And I went down to talk to our artist neighbor. And before I said a word, he said, I've been thinking I want you to represent me. And I was totally taken aback because I do not have a background in the arts. And when he said, well, look at your house, look at your interest in design, like, it occurred to me that we do have a fabulous art collection, which I never really framed that way because I just like art. I never really thought about it as a collection. So I shared with probably 10 people that were helping me determine what my business should be, what I was about to embark upon, and I was referred to 2 other artists, my friend's son and my friend's friend. So I then decided, okay, I'm just going to focus on artists and help them and see what happens. And nearly 5 years later now, I just got my 101st client yesterday.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's been quite fun.
That is incredible. What a cool business. So, Danielle, do you have some long-term contracts, short-term contracts? How do you typically work with an artist?
So my business has kind of 3 legs to it. The first is I help artists one-on-one to increase their client volume and the visibility of their work. And the way I do that is I assess the business side of their art practice. I created this tool that I call the inventory assessment, which basically outlines 20 items that I think every art practice needs to have in place. After working with artists for a number of years, I narrowed it down to these elements, and I then interview an artist to learn all about them and their work and how they're wired so I can best assess what recommendations to give them to reach their goals. So from there, we can work one-on-one together on the goals, or they can go off on their own and do them. So that's the first leg. The second leg is I do a lot of workshops for artists in the community regarding business skills. So it might be on networking or strategic planning or the top 10 business strategies for artists and the like. And then the third leg is I help sell their work. So I reach out to interior designers and art consultants and curators and any individuals or businesses that might be interested in artwork, so I can assist the artist in sharing their work with the world.
Amazing. What a cool business. I am like, it's just so needed. I mean, as I said in the intro, I've interfaced with the art world in a few ways over the course of my life, and just thinking back to my now ex-husband, who was and is an artist, and he had the opportunity to study with some of the most incredible artists like John Baldessari, and when he was at UCLA and things of that nature. And it just, I mean, the phrase "struggling artist" is so so known or so in our vocabulary. There's so many incredible, talented people out there that just have no clue how to actually, get their work into the hands of, the people who have the money to pay them for it.
It's true. And I even have people that, have other careers. I have rocket scientists, I have doctors, I have teachers and lawyers and the like. I have people that testify in front of Congress that have trouble figuring out, how to get their work out there. So it's difficult when you're so close to it, just like any other profession. So it's helpful to bring in another party to give an objective opinion about what's working and what's not working.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it does need to be treated like a business to some extent. I mean, not for every artist, that may not be their goal, but if somebody is trying to make a living on it and thrive on that that salary or that income rather, they do need to treat it like a business.
That's exactly what I tell them is that, that's the difference between a hobbyist and a professional artist. If someone wants to just do their art and, apply to shows and the like, that's great. However, if they want to take it to the next level and really they're trying to get recognition by being in a museum or a certain exhibition or winning a particular prize, they really need to have all the business elements in place to succeed.
Mm-hmm. Danielle, do you have any particular stories, maybe kind of case studies, if you will, maybe pick one of somebody that you have worked with, one of your 100 artists over the last 5 years that you'd like to kind of highlight or profile, if you will?
I have lots of really fun stories. I'll just share one. I have a client who does commissions for the Rockefellers, and he's in the Saatchi collection in London. And when he contacted me, I was really surprised, like, why does this guy, need my help? So when I met him, he gave me his business card, and I was like, what are you, an accountant? This is terrible. You don't look like some, awful business card. So we changed it up. He's a fabulous sculptor. We put an image on one side and his contact information on the other side. And a month later, he was at a party, and he gave someone the card, just as, people do. And he was offered a solo exhibition just based on the image on his business card. So
wow.
It just goes to show you that it doesn't matter if you're an emerging artist, a mid-career artist, or an established artist. You really have to have all your ducks in a row to make an impression on people, and it's important to review those elements and make sure that they're as sound as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to touch on the topic of networking. You talked a lot about that's part of your passion and what you help your clients do. If someone's listening to this and they're an emerging artist, what does networking mean to an artist exactly?
Well, ultimately it means putting yourself out there and leading with your art foot, so to speak. People often introduce themselves with whatever else they do in their life. Oh, I'm a bartender, instead of saying I'm an artist, because artists communicate their feelings and values and such through their work. They're not used to articulating it or writing about it, and it's really important for them to take that risk and to share with folks that they come across exactly what they do. So I work with people on their elevator pitch and on their presentation skills and on how to ignite conversation with strangers, because sometimes it can be difficult.
Absolutely. Wow. I love it. Well, Danielle, what is on the horizon for your business as you continue to grow and help your up to your 200th artist, perhaps, since you just secured your 101st artist?
Well, I'd really like to work with some artists outside of the states I'm already in. We're in about 12 states right now, so to increase that would be ideal. I'm also looking to do some workshops in other venues around the country. And ultimately, I look forward to increasing my ability to sell my clients' work through other businesses and to individual collectors.
Yeah, incredible. Wonderful. Well, if our listeners want to get in touch with you, Danielle, what's the best way for them to do that?
That'd be great. They can just go to my website, clientraiser.com. That's clientraiser.com, and fill out the contact information page, and I'd be shortly in touch.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time, Danielle. I've really, really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. Thanks, Selena. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Flight Club, sponsored by Hera Hub. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you soon.